Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friday Expert live stream. I'm super excited to have a very weird guest for you today. Scarlett is not the nonprofit consultant you will usually see on this live stream. She is, in fact, a for-profit consultant. But in our conversation, as I rolled my eyes because I was partnered with a hippie for that conversation. So in that conversation, she brought up a book. And the title of that book, I cannot remember right now, but I remember it hit me so hard about how not only nonprofits, but people have a relationship to money. I could not help but bring her onto this broadcast. So, Scarlett, thank you so much for coming on the broadcast. My typical question is, what got you in this crazy world of nonprofits? Obviously, you're not in it. So I think my question is, what made you want to teach people to have a better relationship with money?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for that awesome introduction as the weirdo hippie. I will totally take that. Yes, so hello everybody. My name's Scarlett, and I am a money and abundance coach. And what got me here was, growing up, I was taught very much to be perfect, work hard, be successful, get straight A's, get good grades, make good money, get the job title. So I growing up was actually really great at checking all those boxes and becoming really successful. I was the straight A student. I was the high achiever. I was the perfectionist. And all of that bled into my young adulthood because even though all those things were true, I was also the 8-year-old with migraine headaches because I was just maintaining these high standards of success. And so as a young adult, I was checking so many boxes of success. I was getting my bachelor's in business management, accounting, and finance. I was managing restaurants by the time I was 18 and had a team beneath me who were all older than me. I was maintaining a 3.9 GPA. I had $30,000 in savings, zero credit card debt, zero student loans, and was paying for college all out of pocket. So on paper, I was doing everything right and doing life as I should, but inside I was literally dead inside. I felt like an empty shell of a human, and I was wondering how everything could be appear to be going so right, and yet inside everything was so wrong. I was depressed, suicidal, migraines, covered in head to toe eczema because it was just so uncomfortable to be in my life. And so I had my own harsh rock bottom and then really pulled myself out of that hole and realized that all of this came down to my relationship with money and success and really chasing this idea of, someday when I have a lot of money and a lot of success, then I'll be happy. Then I can start to live the life that I want to live, and then I can start to enjoy my life. And I really believed that it was possible to have a relationship with money where we can live the lives we want to live now, where we can feel fulfilled, we can feel free, and also we can do the work that we love, that we care about, that we're passionate about, and make the impact that we want to make on the world without money being the thing that holds us back. And that's really how I got to where I am now.
So I want to back up a little bit. How did you determine that this was because of your relationship to money? Like, of all of the things that you could have been like, the economy, Joe Biden, drugs, whatever it was, you could be like, that was the problem. How did you determine it was your relationship to money?
Yeah, and I didn't realize it right away. Really, the first thing that happened was I realized that I was the one in control of my life because previous to my great awakening, we'll call it, I was purely a victim of my life, purely a victim of circumstances. I was also indecisive and passive. And so it felt like my whole entire life was out of my control and I was really just trapped in situations and in circumstances. And so I began to recognize, oh, wait a second, I'm the one that got myself here. I'm the one that's choosing this life. I'm the one that's creating these results. And that's when I really began to take ownership over my life and began to develop self-trust and heal my relationship with myself. And then I discovered that underneath that was money, because your money is really just a reflection of your self-worth, your belief in yourself, what you're deserving of. It also bleeds into our safety and survival mechanisms. So really the only reason why I wasn't, living the life I wanted to live, doing the things I wanted to do, was because of these pressures and beliefs and expectations around money. And I realized that since I'm the one in control of my life, I'm also the one in control of my money. And I started to explore, like, maybe it doesn't have to be this way. And that's when I started changing my own relationship with money.
So what are some of the things that people often tell themselves that are red flags that their relationship with money is pretty rough?
Yeah, this can show up in so many ways. I think some simple examples are like, I can't afford it, or when you think about buying things, you have a lot of different thoughts that run through your mind. Another way that this could show up is how you feel when you check your bank account, or think about checking your bank account, or think about like sliding your card at the grocery store. That's some examples of how this can show up. It can also show up in big ways when it comes to making bigger decisions. Like, what do I want to do for work? Is it possible for me to do this, or is that not realistic? What's the responsible thing for me to be doing? And really, all of these examples I find boil down to three core scarcity seeds, is what I call them, which are the most common scarce-based beliefs that we all experience in some way or another.
Okay, so let's go through them. What are the three most common scarcity seeds? Because I think that's going to tell us like where our thinking has gone wrong.
Yeah, so the first one is not enoughness. This is the idea that there's not enough to go around, or there's not enough for me. Growing up, this could be like, okay, I have a big family and the youngest person gets the least amount of food. But this is also what leads to the idea of competition, right? Like, oh, I have to compete because there's not enough people to buy, or only some of us are going to win. So therefore, I need to make sure that I am the best. This even shows up when we look at our world, that the world that we're living in, like, we're running out of water. All these ideas of there's not enough to go around, so I need to fight and scrape and push and compete in order to get my share. This also ties into the second scarcity seed, which is
before you get to the second scarcity seed, though. Sometimes there's not enough, right? Like I have 3 children under 4, and there's only one Lion King ball. That's it. There's only one Lion King ball, and both children want it. So this appears a lot, though, that there's not enough. What separates not enough as an unhealthy reaction and a scarcity seed from just recognizing that there's only so much out there in the world?
Yeah, this is a really great question, because I think we can look at it, and especially when it comes to this conversation of abundance that I often find myself having, I think there's two sides to every coin. Anytime there's not enough of something, there's always an overabundance of something else. So, for example, if I don't have enough time, it's because there's an overabundance of things I want to fill my time with, right? I can't not have enough time without having too much of something else. So not enough doesn't exist in isolation. So I think that's the first part, is what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the not enough part, or the too much part that coincides with it? And the other thing that I talk about with my clients is that when we look at nature, nature is inherently abundant. So even if, for example, we go back to farming days and harvest days, if you have one potato, you could look at that and say, I only have one potato. There's not enough to go around, and we're all just going to eat this one potato and then it's going to be gone. Versus if you plant that potato in the ground, that potato is going to grow into several potatoes, multiple potatoes.
I have a large field. I have one potato, or I have a large field, kind of thing.
Right. You have the infinite potential of future potatoes, and it all exists in that one potato, too. It's still present, the abundance, even in the small amount.
That is going to be the quote of the episode. You have the infinite potential of future potatoes.
Yes. Hello.
Okay, so one scarcity seed is there's not enough. So if you're a nonprofit and you're engaging with funders, one of the ways that this shows up is you're approaching a funder for $1 million. You're like, I know this is a really highly competitive grant. You're constantly focused on the fact that there's not enough to go around, you might be one of those organizations, as opposed to being like, but there are 400 other funders out there that I could be going to, which have infinitely more resources than this one that I'm currently focused on, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can resonate with this from the business side too, which I think directly relates. Often my clients are like, oh, there's not enough clients to go around, or not enough money, or not enough people interested. When you think that, it changes the way you show up. It changes the way you sell. And even if you're a nonprofit, you're still selling the idea of the thing you're asking for money for. So when you show up to your work and asking for money from a place of, there's plenty of people who want to invest in this, there's plenty of money to go around, that changes the way that you show up and sell, and really speak compellingly and actually get people on board with your fundraising.
So what's the second scarcity seed?
The second one ties in very much to this, and that is worthiness. If there's not enough to go around, then am I really worthy and deserving of receiving it? This is also where a lot of money is evil and bad, and is it wrong for me to have a lot of it? And especially when we talk about business and nonprofit, it the money taints the energy behind what I'm trying to do and the impact that I'm trying to make. I'm not deserving of holding large amounts of money. So worthiness is really the second one.
Got it. Okay. And what's the third of the three scarcity seeds?
Yeah, this is a big one. This is starving artist syndrome. And this is the idea that we can have either or. Either we can do the work we love, or we can have money, but we can't have both. And that we can't be happy and fulfilled and also support ourselves financially at the same time.
So this is something I see so often with nonprofits. It is very much I won't even know if it is I can't. It's almost I shouldn't. I talked to a nonprofit a week or so ago, and I was talking to their executive board, and we were talking about they're a horse rescue kind of nonprofit, and talking to their executive board, and they are talking about growth and what does growth look like. And I started to present some different scenarios of what growth could look like for the organization. And one of the board members steps in and goes, no, we're an all volunteer organization, and we will always be an all volunteer organization. Not as a mark of we want to be, but as a mark of that's the only ethical way to run this, is we can't pay ourselves for this kind of work. How does one overcome that thought of I not only can't make money doing what I love and what helps people, I shouldn't?
Yes. And I talk about this all the time with my clients, because even though I work with for-profit, I work with entrepreneurs who have heart-centered businesses. They're I want to have make a huge positive impact on the world. They have aligned intentions, and then when they try to make money doing it, it taints the way that they feel about it. It feels like it changes the service, it changes the quality of what they're doing, it ruins the vibe, and it actually really is harmful to the people that they're serving and asking money for. And so the way that I like to think about this, and what I talk about with my clients, is it's so interesting that we see asking for money as a bad thing or a negative thing, because I truly believe that the way that I like to say it is, your price point, or the money that you're asking for, is part of the service and part of the value that you provide. Because when you are asking for money from somebody, instead of taking something from them, you are giving them the opportunity to make a choice about their life and the kind of world that they want to live in. You're giving them the opportunity to commit to themselves in a bigger way, choose what is most important to them. And especially when it comes to nonprofit work, for example, I do have a client, she's an artist, and she is currently raising a lot of money to go bring her art exhibit to the Biennale, which is a big art gala in Venice. And so she's in the process of asking for a lot of money, which is something she's previously been very uncomfortable doing. And I've had conversations with her where I said, what opportunity are you giving people by asking them and giving them the opportunity to say yes to supporting you and your mission and your impact? And in fact, it's a really high honor and a gift to give somebody the opportunity to choose what is most important to them, to get to invest in the service, the value, the impact, and the result of the world that you are creating. And so that's just one huge foundational mindset shift that I talk about with money all the time is you're not taking anything, you're giving somebody the opportunity, and by not asking for money, you're actually removing that opportunity.
That is such a fantastic way to close out the first segment. That is excellent. It's something that we talk with nonprofits all the time about. Is it relates to the poster above my shoulder. Impact over charity, and that is how often does someone get the opportunity to make an impact on the world? Not often. You go throughout your daily life, you get the opportunity to pay bills, you get the opportunity to buy things so that, make you more money. But how often does someone get the opportunity for self-transformation? Someone get the opportunity to transform the world around them? You are walking in with a gift. Now they could choose not to get it, but imagine being, the person who Steve Jobs decided not to offer Apple shares to because he was like, they wouldn't like this anyway. They couldn't afford it. They're not interested. Imagine being that person and seeing Steve Jobs 20 years later. Do you want to be that Steve Jobs in that scenario? No, you don't. You want to offer these opportunities to these people.
Yes, exactly.
So that is an excellent first segment, really digging into the problems, the three seeds of scarcity. I love the way that you laid that out. So now let's talk a little bit about your giveaway for our audience. So how can our audience engage with you to learn more about you or get some more information about you and see if you can help them with their money challenges?
Yeah, so I actually have a really awesome gift that I'd love for you to check out. And I have a free quiz so that you can discover your money mindset type through working with tons of clients and having tons of conversations about money. I've discovered that there are three primary money mindset types: the way you think about money, the way you feel about money, the way you use money. And these different money mindset types can really impact, the way you feel about money in general. It can also greatly impact the flow of money in your business or organization as well too. So when you take this free quiz, you're going to uncover what is your primary money mindset type and also learn how to start to work with your money mindset type so you can come into more balance and alignment with your money, and all of that greatly affects your ability to bring the flow of money into your organization. So you can get the free quiz and discover your money mindset type on my website, thebizhippie.com/quiz.
Bizhippie.com/quiz. And right now I'm going to drop that into the comments on all of the platforms with the label The Quiz. So if you want to take that Biz Hippie Kit quiz and find out what your relationship to money is, then that is fantastic. So now let's start talking about getting out of this, right? So let's say you have these scarcity seeds. Let's plot a roadmap for our nonprofit leaders out of this fear of asking for money and into this excitement or joy or reveling in the opportunity that they can offer people going forward.
Yes. So there are a couple steps that you can take to start to really shift this. I think the first step is recognizing your current relationship with money and the impact that it could be having on your life and also your ability to bring money into your organization, because we often just accept our relationship with money as truth. We don't even realize we have a relationship with money. We think this is just the way life is. Everybody's struggling, everybody's stressed, everybody feels this way. We're kind of like a fish swimming in water. We don't see the water that's surrounding us. So the first step is really to start to question, what is your relationship with money? How do you feel about money? What are your primary thoughts around money? What are the types of things you say yes to spending money on? What are the things you say no to, and why? What are your thoughts when you're about to ask somebody for money? How do you feel in that moment? And this is just starting to bring awareness to what is your relationship with money? And that's the first step, because you need to see what's actually going on, and also what impact is that making in your life and in your work as well too.
So if I'm, getting ready, I know a lot of our nonprofit leaders experience this fear when they go to make the phone call. So they go to make the phone call to set up the meeting, and they're like freaking out, and they're immediately wanting to cut the amount that they think they're going to ask for in the meeting. They're immediately if they don't want to cut and run entirely from that situation. So what are the key questions that they should be asking themselves as a nonprofit leader in this situation about their relationship with money to make it easier to actually make that phone call?
Yeah, if you're in an active situation like that, I have some steps that I invite you to take. And honestly, they're going to sound so simple that you're going to want to bypass them and be like, whatever, I'm not going to do this. But I promise you, if you take the time to do this, it's really impactful. So the first step is write down whatever thoughts are running through your head that's causing you to feel the way you're feeling. So if you're about to make a phone call and you're feeling really nervous, write down all the thoughts of they're going to say no, they can't afford this, or whatever deeper is going on under the surface. So write those on paper, and then once you get it on paper, you're getting it out of your head so you can see it clearly, and you can start to question these thoughts and say, what is this based off of? Because your relationship with money and the scarcity seeds that you have, they come from somewhere. You learned them at some point in your life, likely in your childhood and just growing up in our society. So, but we just, again, accept them as true. We don't really realize them and question them. So you have to write it down and ask yourself, is this actually true? And also, where did I learn this from? Like, what has trained this in me to think that these things are true? And so in the long term, you can start to uncover where were these seeds implanted and start to unwind those stories. But if you're in kind of like you need a quick fix, you can look at them clearly, question if they are accurate or true, and instead write out, what do you want to be true instead? What are some abundance-based beliefs? And then create some evidence supporting that. So for example, with my client who is asking for more and more money for her project, we wrote out how she was afraid of, asking for money made her a bad person, and people can't afford it, and people are struggling with money. And we wrote all of that out and said, well, what is that based off of? And she's like, well, I'm not really struggling for money. I'm doing okay. So I guess not everybody is suffering with money. And like, I invest in myself and I invest in things, and I'm willing to spend on things that are important to me. So I guess not everybody like is unwilling to spend money and doesn't want to give, because I'm an example of someone who does. And so then we look at the flip side of that and say, oh, what if this person's excited to give? They're happy to give. And how do I know this to be true? Is because I'm someone who's happy to give. So I know those people exist out there. So it's really training your brain to see new evidence and new belief, but in a way where you can more deeply believe it.
That's fascinating. Just putting it down and kind of finding the evidence, because it's not so much that the evidence doesn't exist. It's that you're focusing on the evidence that you're already pre-trained to look at.
Yes, because that's how our brain works. So our brain has a process. It's called the reticular activating system, and the RAS, the RAS, which looks for evidence of what we already believe to be true. So anytime you have a programmed belief, your reticular activating system is looking around and affirming that that belief is true all the time. So even the simple act of getting your beliefs and your thoughts down on paper separates the beliefs from you, so you can look at them a little bit more objectively and open up your perspective to collect new evidence. And you can tell if you're doing this by the language that you use. Are you talking in absolutes, like no one ever da 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 da, someone always, etc., etc.? And how can you look at the language and start to pull it apart and say, well, is this accurate to reality?
So once someone has actually written down their thoughts and kind of started to answer the questions about their relationship with money, that can be very insightful. It can probably be very overwhelming as well. So, what is the next step that they need to take to get out of this fear of fundraising and fear of asking for money?
Yeah. So another step that I think is really important is we talked a little bit about like your internal relationship with money, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs around money. The other part is your tangible relationship with money. And so in the work that I do with my clients, I teach you how to manage and track your money. And this is really important because if you have a fear or an aversion to looking at your personal finances, your business finances, like all of that is going to bleed into your ability to ask for money. There's a reason why you're avoiding it. If you felt abundant and safe and confident and you fully trusted yourself with money, you would have no problem looking at the numbers. And so, going back to this client who is doing this huge fundraising effort, she recently told me that she stopped looking at her personal financial blueprint, her personal money management tool, because she was afraid that she wasn't going to be able to raise the money for her art project, and therefore she just developed an aversion to looking at her money at all. Right, her brain was coming up with all these like excuses and rationales and aversions and fear. And so instead of continuing to avoid it and stick your head in the sand and pretend like it's not happening, what we need to do is actually learn to face our money. And when you do this for your personal finances, it actually has a huge impact on your work and your organization as well too, because you're developing a comfortable, logic based relationship with money as opposed to an emotional based relationship with money. You also have very clear goals and expectations where you're like, oh, I actually only need to raise this much or ask this many people for money, as opposed to your brain just conflating, like, I just need an infinite tons of money and I'm never going to get there. Like, it's actually not based on reality.
Well, that's interesting because that really speaks to me as someone who from the Midwest, and when you're from the Midwest and you're from farming culture, you always expect there's going to be another storm. There's going to be another frost, and it's going to wipe out all of your crops. And so you never actually get comfortable with the amount of money you have because you always assume there will be something else that comes along and sinks it. And it can lead to not looking at your accounts, not looking at your numbers, and just being like, I'm going to operate on, I certainly hope that I spent properly, because if I have to look at my numbers, then I have to examine where I'm at, and it activates those underlying fears that I have about never having enough money. And there's always another catastrophe around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
That is fascinating. Okay. So how do I keep, one of the things I do for fun is I have always had a dream as a little kid to be a quarterback. And I'm not built like a quarterback. I'm built like a runner. However, that's decent for flag football. And so I practice regularly throwing a football outside at 30. So nobody judge me. But I'm regularly doing that. And I find that often you learn a skill. So, you learn how to make the football roll off your fingers instead of trying to just throw it straight and get the spiral. But then the more you use it, you start to forget the skill, and then all of a sudden you're back to throwing ducks into the middle of the field. So what is it that you work with your clients on to help these stick? You examine your relationship with money, you address your relationship with money, you actually look at the practicality of it. What are reminders? What are ways that you can make sure this actually sticks after you do the hard work?
Yeah, yeah, and it's always an unfolding practice as well too, because your relationship with money is always growing and developing. And as you step into bigger and bigger levels of your abundant life, or you're reaching towards bigger and bigger goals, this process is continuing to unfold with you, because as you're, expanding your comfort zone to bring in more money, to increase your revenue, to live a fuller life, to reach bigger goals, you're going to bring any gunk, any scarcity seeds, any stuff that's under the surface up. It's going to come up in that process. And so honestly, like, it's inevitable that it's going to present itself. So really what it comes down to is how committed are you to stepping into the next level? Because in order to do it, you need to do this work around your self-worth, your belief, your money. And when we go to the tangible practices as well, it really becomes a routine. And eventually, once you get over the initial discomfort of doing it, you discover, like with any habit, that it actually feels better to do it than to not do it. And so, what's very, very common for my clients is they just start managing their money when they work with me. They kind of get in the groove, and then maybe something gets overwhelming or a big bill comes up and they get stressed and scared and they stop looking at it. But what happens is when you stop looking at it, the stress increases. We think that by avoiding it, we're, doing ourselves a favor and we're relieving ourselves of stress. But actually, we have a lot of stress that just comes from the unknown, not knowing what's going on, not being in control of it, feeling like it's out of our hands. And so it gets worse and worse, and we keep avoiding it and we keep avoiding it, and it gets really bad. But when we feel that discomfort instead, and we're like, oh, I'm feeling really stressed about money. I had a big unexpected purchase or something happened. The choice is to go in and say, oh, I'm going to actually look at my money here. I'm going to actually look at my beliefs. I'm going to actually face it and do this work. And what happens is you always feel better on the other side, because if you're not looking at it, you can't do anything about it. But if you're looking at it, even if the situation isn't great, now you're the one in control of it, and you can come up with a game plan and a strategy. Just like going back to looking at your money, I have my clients plan worst case scenarios. Like with this client who's doing this big project, we look at, okay, so what happens if you don't raise the money that you need? Like, are you going to die? Are you going to go bankrupt? Are you going to lose the house? How are you actually going to deal with that situation? And now you're not just trying to convince yourself that you're going to be safe. You can actually see on paper, oh, actually, I'm fine. Here's how I'm going to make this work. So to answer your original question, it's one part practice and commitment. It's another part recognizing that the more you do this, you actually feel better, and that it's so much easier to do this work and live this way because it helps you expand and grow so much faster.
That is certainly something that I've found. The more that I have asked for money, particularly cold contact, the more that I have asked for money and reached out to people that I didn't know, the more comfortable I got with it, and the more it became a part of what I do now is actually look for ways to reach out to people I don't know and see if they're on board with this opportunity. So that is fantastic. I don't always learn things. I usually learn things from our guests. I've learned quite a bit from you, and I'm thrilled that you dedicated some of your precious time to come on and talk to our nonprofit leaders about you and about what you do, and really walk them through what it's going to take to overcome that fear of fundraising that they have. So give us one more time the way to get a hold of you, to reach you, if we want more help working on our organizations and our relationship to money.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can connect with me primarily by getting the quiz, which would be super awesome. You can do that on my website, thebizhippie.com/quiz. If you're looking to explore your relationship with money a little bit more, I also have my own podcast as well that dives a lot deeper into your overall relationship. So you can check that out on any podcast platform. And that is the Empowered and Abundant podcast.
Thank you so much for coming on the Friday Expert live stream. And thank you to our audience for showing up Friday after Friday for some reason, and continuing to engage with the experts that we're bringing for you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you all next Friday.